Franz Reichelt. Franz Reichelt was a French tailor and inventor. He was always full of ideas. One of his ideas was to create a wearable parachute suit for aviators, who kept crashing in early flight history. Reichelt designed a parachute integrated into a flight suit, made from fabric and stiff supports. He decided to test it on dummies from the roof of his apartment. Although all his attempts failed, he didn't give up. He believed it would work only if he dropped them from a higher altitude. On February 4th, 1912, everyone gathered around the Eiffel Tower to see Reichelt's invention in action. During a scheduled demonstration at the Eiffel Tower, Reichelt was about to test his parachute on a dummy. But suddenly, he changed his mind. Reichelt believed in his invention so much that he decided to jump himself. He jumped from the tower's first platform, which was 187 feet high. The suit failed to deploy, and he died from the impact. The worst part is, the entire event was filmed, making it one of the earliest recorded examples of a fatal accident on camera. Thomas Midgley Jr. Thomas Midgley Jr. was an American mechanical and chemical engineer whose inventions had enormous impact, mostly in harmful ways that became clear only later. One of his inventions was leaded gasoline. Midgley discovered that adding a chemical called tetraethyl lead to gasoline would stop car engines from knocking. At the time, this seemed like a huge breakthrough, but later, people found out that leaded gasoline would release toxic lead into the air, harming public health worldwide. In the early 1940s, Midgley developed polio, which severely weakened his legs and made it difficult for him to move or lift himself from bed. He designed a mechanical system of ropes and pulleys to help him shift positions without needing help. It was built over his bed, attached to the ceiling. Ropes ran through pulleys and connected to a harness that supported his body. On November 2nd, 1944, Midgley was accidentally entangled in the ropes. He was physically weak, and the system relied entirely on his ability to control it, so he couldn't free himself. The ropes were tangled around his neck, and he died of strangulation. William Bullock. William Bullock was an American inventor best known for creating the automatic web-fed printing press, a machine that fed paper from a continuous roll and printed far faster than earlier. Before Bullock's invention, printing presses were really slow. They printed one sheet of paper at a time, and the paper had to be fed into the machine manually. Bullock's press used a continuous roll of paper, known as a web, which was automatically fed into the machine. This allowed the press to print 4,000 sheets per hour, much faster than previous methods. On April 3, 1867, an accident happened. Bullock reached into the machine to fix a problem on one of his presses at a newspaper building. Unfortunately, his pant leg got caught in the gears, pulling him into the machinery. His leg was crushed. Later, on April 13th, he died of infection related to his leg injury. Valerian Abakovsky. Valerian Abakovsky was a young Soviet inventor. He created an unusual vehicle called the Aerowagon, a railcar pushed by an airplane engine and propeller. He hoped it would make travel for officials and important messages much faster, combining the speed of aviation with the rails already built across the country. In July 1921, the Aerowagon set out on a test trip from Moscow to Tula. The ride to Tula went well, and the passengers were amazed by how fast it could move. He was only 25, and he felt so proud of his invention. Everything was fine, but on the return journey, the Aerowagon sped over uneven tracks, and it became unstable. Everyone was terrified. There was nothing they could do to stop it. It didn't take long until the Aerowagon derailed. It crashed and killed Abakovsky and many other passengers. Although Abakovsky's Aerowagon was not successful, it became the inspiration of today's high-speed trains. Henry Smolinski. Henry Smolinski was an American engineer known for one of the most famous early attempts at building a flying car. In the early 1970s, Smolinski founded Advanced Vehicle Engineers. The idea was that someone could drive the car on the road, then attach the aircraft components at the airport and fly it like a plane. To do this, he took a Ford Pinto and attached the wings, tail, and rear engine of a Cessna Skymaster to it. The resulting prototype was called the AVE Mizar. The airplane parts were meant to be detachable so the car could switch between driving and flying. On September 11, 1973, Smolinski and his business partner decided to test the Mizar. During a test flight in California shortly after takeoff, a key attachment holding the aircraft components to the car failed. The vehicle was in the air and it suddenly broke apart and crashed. Both Smolinski and his business partner died in the accident. But it was the start of the idea of today's flying cars. Henry Winstanley. Henry Winstanley was an English engraver and engineer best known for building the first lighthouse in the world. Born in 1644, he originally worked as an engraver and became known for his detailed architectural drawings. His talent and mechanical novelty led him to create Winstanley's Waterworks, a popular London attraction filled with automata and water-driven tricks. When Henry heard about several ships crashing near the dangerous Eddystone Rocks, he became determined to build a lighthouse that would guide the ships and reduce the accidents. At the time, building a permanent structure on an offshore rock was considered impossible, but he didn't give up. Construction began in 1696. He used his art and engineering skills to build a beautiful lighthouse right where the ships used to crash. It was completed in 1698 and represented a major breakthrough. It showed that an offshore lighthouse could stand against the sea. But in 1703, while Winstanley was at the lighthouse for some repairs, the Great Storm of 1703 struck. It was the most destructive storm in British history, and it completely destroyed the lighthouse. Winstanley and several others were in the lighthouse when it collapsed.